I'm Ross, a curious parent.
And I'm John, an education expert.
This is From the Sidelines.
Bite-sized study tips to help you help them through.
So welcome back, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you, to have you with us on From the Sidelines. John, I think one of the really important things to mention to those that are listening or watching is that hopefully this information that we're giving is useful for parents and carers with children of any age.
Absolutely.
So myself, obviously, I've got two young children, probably too early to implement some of this, although some of the bits you mentioned around what did you learn today, I've already started implementing with my daughter who just started school. And yourself, you've had practice of this, haven't you?
Absolutely. So my two are 15 and 19 at the moment. Upper end of kind of secondary school, and my eldest is at university. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Ross. As parents, we can use these strategies for whether it's primary school, whether it's secondary school, whether it's college, whether it's university, or into adulthood as well. So this is really a podcast and a program to help people understand how they can support learning, not support at secondary school or not support at university. It's irrespective of age and stage, this can be used because these are tried and tested ways of how we can support by looking on from the sidelines and how we can do that and how we can help to support them through whether it's a spelling test at the end of the week, whether it's a GCSE, whether it's a degree, whether it's a driving test, whatever it is, or a job interview. So how we can help that. So hopefully people can take it in whatever context that they're listening to this.
And this topic is certainly one that you definitely know implement with really young children in terms of understanding them the basics and fundamentals.
Yeah.
Look, cover, write, check. Go for it.
That's correct. So look, cover, write, check. It's very similar to a previous topic that we've done on brain dump and blurting. So it's the same idea, but it can be done slightly different. So let me pick that apart. What it is that you look at some information, some new information. You look at it and you read it. That's the look phase. The second part, cover, you then cover it up, either physically with your hand as a parent or close the book so it's covered up. You then get your child to write out what they can remember and you then check it afterwards. Look, cover, write, check, a 4-step process. Now, let me give you an example. The perfect way that we already know that we do this probably, people listening, is when your child either brought home or is bringing home, depending how old they are, the spellings at the end of the week. So you look at them and you give it a good go and you kind of, do we know this? Yeah. Then you cover them over and your child practices writing them out, right? And then we check them. That's exactly what we do. So we know it works, but actually we can then start to use this with a revision guide or with a knowledge organizer or with a piece of text. It's the same process that we all know, that we probably did ourselves and that we've done with our children. We know it works. It's look, cover, write, check.
And why is it a technique that works then? What does it do here to help with recall and knowledge building? Right.
Well, the word you mentioned there is really important. Recall. We're getting our children to recall something. And we always say this, and we've said it for the last few episodes, the physical act of recalling is what strengthens the memory itself. So by getting your child to actually recall it and write it down, it helps strengthen the memory. But what it also does, it also sometimes shocks them and you into, oh, hang on, I thought I knew this. I thought I remembered it. I haven't got much on my page now. So it's different if it's 10 spellings because you're probably going to have at least 10 efforts. But if you've just read a page of text from a revision guide or you've read some notes, the fact that you might not be able to hardly write anything down straight away afterwards demonstrates that you might have digested it but not really understood it. So it's a really good way to check what you've actually understood and, more importantly, what you can recall. Because it doesn't matter how much you think you know. If you cannot recall it, then you're not going to be able to pass an exam. Because as we know, the way that exams are that happen in this country and around the world is that you are asked to recall your understanding of a topic onto a bit of paper. So the more we do this, the more we get our children to repeat that process and to go through that act, then that's going to make that even easier for them to do.
So for anyone interested, and hopefully there's quite a few that are listening to this, in terms of actually doing this, what's the step-by-step process then? Just lay out really simply,
Yeah.
how would you do this with your child?
First thing you need to do is grab a little bit of equipment, nothing fancy, a bit of paper, whether it's lined or blank, some pens, pencils, that kind of stuff, and get whatever it is you're going to look at. So we need something. And this is different to a brain dump. A brain dump you can do without needing a resource, because it's dump what's in your head from a topic you learned 6 weeks ago, 2 years ago, whatever it is. So you can just pick anything. This is where we almost need a resource. So it's a bit of maybe some new learning or the new spellings for the week, whatever it is. So we need the resource, and ultimately it does what it says on the tin. So let me spell it out one more time. Look. So look at the information, try and take it in, digest it. Cover. Cover it over, either with your hand or shut the book or remove it from the room, whatever it is. Write. So now can you actually write that information out? What can you recall of it? Can you do the spellings, or can you write out the key topics? And then check. Let's check how much you have actually learned, or check, are the spellings correct? Very, very simple. Literally just do what it says on the tin. Look, cover, write, check.
Is there an element in that as well that allows you, I'm thinking for parents and carers where the child might get frustrated about not understanding information, not being able to recall it. What would you say to that? Do you kind of break down into smaller bite-sized chunks? How would you approach that one?
Yeah, absolutely. And if they have just read a whole chapter or a whole topic, well, actually, let's look at breaking it down to, right, we're going to do look, cover, write, check on page 1, or even the first paragraph of page 1. Or, so break it down into small chunks rather than trying to give them too much any one time. And it's a little bit like the Goldilocks approach that we all know from the Goldilocks story, that it's about finding the right level and the right amount, not too little, not too much, just the right amount. So if you take that into practice, it might be that 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages is too much. So actually, let's just look at, right, we're going to do look, cover, write, check on the first half of the page, or until the title, or after the diagram, whatever it is. Secondly, you mentioned if they're reluctant, you might want to get involved and say, okay, well, I'll help you. You can tell me what you know and I'll write it down. That might be a halfway house to get going. We talked about that in the brain dump video as well, about reluctant learners or how you can get involved. And that might be a nice way to start it, because they might be, worried or embarrassed about their handwriting or what they can or can't learn, or, so you might be able to get involved in that. However, just be aware, if you always do that, that doesn't help them in an exam.
Yeah.
Because they want someone to do that hard work for them. And when it becomes hard, they might switch off and say, oh, it's too hard, this. You've got to wean them off that at some point. That's why I say it's a halfway house. It's a good starting point, but it might not be where you want to get to. You might want to time it. So you might want to say, okay, we're going to cover it over. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Put them under a bit of pressure. So lots of ways that we can do that to hopefully, and I think we've said this before in a previous episode, join the dots together, or kind of join those jigsaw pieces together. So you start using a little bit of desirable difficulties and a timer. You use retrieval practice. You use a revision guide. You use look, cover, write, check. You're doing all these things together. Use a timer where you are adding all those things together to make the real magic of how learning works. And that is, it's this, what I like to call simplexity. It's the simplicities of it, but adding them all together, it makes it quite complex, but all the little moving parts are all quite simple to do. Very easy to do. When you put them all together, suddenly you have this, we like to call it the parenting superpower, don't we, Ross? That's what we're giving parents. Put these things together and suddenly, bang, it can make a big, big difference very quickly.
So I think I pretty much outlined there how parents can get involved in this strategy. Is there anything else that you would suggest to parents about how they can get involved with it? Is it...
And I mean, we talked about this in the brain dump video about maybe keeping those resources as well, and looking back on them from time to time and seeing whether or not your child has improved and been able to write more. It'd be lovely to be able to see that the first time they did it, they only wrote 2 or 3 lines. Now, after 2 or 3 months, they're writing half a page or a full page, or they've so therefore that might demonstrate 2 or 3 things. It might demonstrate that their learning has improved. But more importantly, it might have also demonstrated that their confidence and their engagement has improved, that they're far more willing and open and wanting to do that, which is ultimately, if you've got that, you've cracked it, haven't you? Especially if they've been reluctant to begin with, you can show them and you can feel confident as well that you're doing what you need to do as a parent. And that's exactly why we're doing this, to give parents those tools and make parents feel confident in the strategies that they can use to help at home without having to be a qualified teacher.
So I'd probably suggest it's the most self-explanatory title that we've got and that we've covered.
Absolutely.
Look, cover, right check.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Does what it says on the tin.
It certainly does. And we want to see this in action as well. So if you're able to share with us, actually delivering this technique, working with your child at home or wherever that may be, to put this into practice, it's really important, not for us, but also to share this around everybody else that's listening, and all the other parents, carers, and champions of young people, where we are ultimately here to help you help them through. Thanks, John.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And yeah, it'd be lovely to see, what some of those pages look like for people doing look, cover, right check.
Completely.
Or, people might be thinking, well, I don't want to take a picture, put a picture of my child in there. Well, an over the shoulder shot, that shows them writing with the book there, or how they're doing it. So it doesn't have to be a picture of them, facing the camera, but just those those study notes of how they're doing it. And I think that's really nice for everyone to be able to say, oh, I like that technique. Oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, I'm going to use some different colours. Oh, that really looks good. And just, it's a nice way of engaging everyone as a community to come together to help each other and share ideas with each other, so we can all learn and we can all get better as parents, which is what we want.
And I think one final thing just to mention as well is, although there are lots of different topics that we're covering, I think one thing that we're really keen on is actually, as a parent and carer, an adult helping a young person, you can jump into any one of these, implement a technique, and it will make a positive difference. And that's really important to say. You don't have to do steps 1, 2, 3, 4 till you get to this point. You could implement this tonight, and we believe that will make a massive difference. Yeah,
100%. They can all be picked up, used immediately, with very little resources, or very little know-how, and it's about just giving it a go. Yeah. We're not saying you need to be the master immediately. It's about giving it a go within the the constraints of the four walls of your house, where no one's looking. If you get it wrong, it doesn't matter. If it takes 2 or 3 goes to become a master, or to really kind of get to grips with it, fine. We're saying give it a go, and we're sure that it'll start to make a difference.
Thank you very much. We've loved that one. That's been really good, and we look forward to seeing you guys again real soon. Thank you.